Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tokyo 2.0 for July 2009, number 26. We've got, I think, 5 main presentations tonight and 3 lightning talks, and we'll have a break halfway through. And I'm going to do the Japanese as well. So, 今日は、ちょっといつも通訳してる方は来られなかったんで、ちょっといつも通りは全部は通訳しないんですけど、まあ日本語のプレゼンテーションがあって、それで私が英語をやりますので、ちょっと英語のプレゼンテーションは日本語の通訳がないので、ちょっと許してください。So yeah, for tonight, unfortunately, Toyo has had a business appointment. He can't make it today, so we're going to have our English presentations just in English, and then our Japanese presentation, I'll be translating. So unfortunately, no last-minute translations. So my name is Andrew Schluworth, and I'm going to hand over now, I think, to our main theme organizer for tonight. Our main theme is cloud computing, but this has been put together by David Shackelford, so please give David a warm welcome.
Thanks, Andrew. Let's all give Andrew a big round of congratulations on his new job at Apple. Yeah. So today's theme is cloud computing, and rather than taking any time to give an awkwardly worded explanation of what that is, I'm just going to hand this over quickly to our first presenter, James Santagana. Worked really hard on that pronunciation. Who has a presentation kind of explaining what cloud computing is, isn't, and why it matters. James works at SiliconEdge and New Venture Japan. Can we get some like screen type thing? Uh-oh, wrong screen. What's happening here? It is G. Where's that button? There it is. Cool. Uh-oh. What's going wrong with it? Fix your computer.
It's reversed. Yeah, we're not going to split screens.
Okay, another round of welcome for James Santanaga.
I'm James Santagana. So today I'll talk about the cloud computing, what it is, what it isn't, and why it matters. Everyone has a different definition, so I thought I'd start with some of the industry leaders to discuss what they say. This was from Larry Ellison of just last year, where he says, "What the hell is cloud computing? We've redefined cloud computing to include everything that we currently do. I can't think of anything that isn't cloud computing." And then from Steve Ballmer at the CEO, that's from the Monkey Boy video, screenshot. This was from the Churchill Club in Silicon Valley of last year. He said, "I would have thought I knew what cloud computing meant until I sat with Ann Winblad from Hummer Winblad Ventures and a bunch of venture capitalists this morning who used the word completely differently than I would have used it." And then recently at the Web 2.0 Expo in the US, there was over 15 tech writers, pundits, and technologists, and you can see the video on YouTube. That included Tim O'Reilly, Dave McClure, and others. And they were asked, basically, can you describe what cloud computing is? And most of them were very, very stumped. Tim O'Reilly said that it was basically a platform as a service for the foundation of Web 2.0. And then Jay Cross, who's quite famous for some of the work he did at University of Phoenix and online learning, said, I don't care what it is so long as it works. So I've got a way to plug into this amazing set of connections and computing and other things. And if there are a zillion connections between me and somebody else on the other end, I'm still happy because I don't have to mess with the stuff in the middle, which is quite good. So then I've got another video that came from Steve Ballmer where he actually, I think, kind of nailed it down a bit. And basically, when I was thinking what cloud computing is, it's one of these things that you can kind of guess what it is or mention characteristics, but it may be hard to describe. So basically, if you look at hosted computers, which we have a lot of, he says, why aren't hosted computers historically called cloud computing? It's basically because no one has re-architected the underlying server software and specifically designed it for scaling, fault tolerance, geo-replication, and security in an environment that's multi-tenant and shared. So basically, when people talk about cloud computing, they're really talking about something that outside the firewall and specifically architected to be managed and propagated in a certain way. And that further, people don't want to rewrite the applications depending on where they want to instance the software. So what isn't cloud computing? I mean, we've heard all of the marketing hype that it's a panacea to all of IT and business problems. Some people say, I'm just going to access the data on the internet, that's the cloud, or using any computer that's out there, that's the cloud. And a lot of this is really market response to jump on the cloud bandwagon to somehow try to monetize their service, which some of the terms you hear is cloud envy or cloud washing or cloud spray, where nothing has been done to the underlying architecture or software, but simply some marketing shtick that's put on top of a brochure. I think, though, there's some characteristics and comparisons where, just like with certain diseases or things, we can look at things that might describe what it is. And I think in general, on-demand computing is often outside the firewall, but it may not be always outside the firewall. Dynamically scalable, highly available, fault-tolerant, delivered as a service, and often has the characteristic of multi-tenancy and shared. It also may use virtualization resources for both computation and storage for the foundation, and ideally supports geo-replication. And that users themselves, or even the developers, don't really need to worry about managing or setting up the tech infrastructure. You don't need to be a sysadmin or install a LAMP stack to do so. Oftentimes there's some confusion with utility computing and grid computing as well. And in general, the utility computing would be a system whereby the resources of the computer are packaged and sold or delivered as a metered service. So an analog to the physical world would be electricity, gas, water, electricity. And grid computing, at least the way I would define it, would be more of a distributed computers that are working in concert to act together to perform tasks. It could be dealing with decoding the genome, or dealing with something with financial algorithms or calculations as well. So within layers of cloud computing, I think there might be some analogies to the OSI reference model, like 7 layers. And in general, you can look at cloud computing starting at the very bottom with, and these are all packaged as services, infrastructure as a service, the platform itself as a service, and then SaaS, the software delivered as a service as well. How you define each one of those is also open to debate. Some people will hold storage as a service also as different from the other two. And then within the layers of the cloud, these are just some possibilities, and they're open for debate. Infrastructure of a service may include, Amazon services, Microsoft. Platform of service could be the Azure, which is the Microsoft Cloud, Google App, Rackspace, and various SaaS applications as well, ranging from, the ubiquitous Salesforce.com all the way to some other ones, even Intuit, which has moved out of the cloud as well. I think within types of cloud computing, A lot of these are also evolving, but there's four main ones that I think identify. One is the actual public cloud that you may see, perhaps Azure, or dealing with some of the Amazon services. But also it could be a private cloud, and that private cloud could be both on-premise or off-premise, but it's owned by you. Then there's a hybrid cloud that may be both public and private, and what I call like a hybrid 2, which may be some amalgamation of public and private, on-premise, and also the private off-premise as well. Which ones become most popular depend on business model, security, and I think really to see what happens as this grows and matures from a very nascent technology. What are some of the different obstacles, opportunities, and principal threats? I think this is something where, from William Gibson, that they say the future is already here, but it's unevenly distributed. So depending on who you talk to and what their experience is with cloud computing, they may be using it today, but someone else may know nothing about it or not even have experience. Also from Forrester, this was interesting too, that although the impact of cloud computing in the long run is revolutionary, in the short term there's a lot of overblown hype. And in this case he talks about the issue of mainframes and how long it took to kind of move them out of mainstream. By the same token though, people that don't take advantage of the cloud now will find it very hard to move in as the barriers to entry increase, as well as the ability to differentiate yourself in the market. And all of these changes in general will always cause some amount of pain for developers. It could be data centers, anyone within the value chain. And in general, pain always means potential profit for those that are willing to think outside the box or take risks. So some of the obstacles and opportunities that this kind of throws up into play, and things that haven't been resolved yet, are things like vendor lock-in with your data. It's one thing to put things in the cloud, but what happens if they go out of business? Security, I mean, there's always the data at rest, data at flight issues as well. But what happens if you're in a multi-tenant environment and the FBI has a search warrant to take one of these servers? I mean, what happens then? Government surveillance, different legal compliance, different laws with geo-replication, where laws in France may be different than Germany, that may be different in the US. Also, opportunity with tracking, reporting, analytics. What are going to be the design patterns? We have design patterns now with the multi-tier architecture where that's very common, but what may evolve from this as well? And then what technology stacks may be popular? Right now we have LAMP as one that's very popular, but what else may come about in the future? And I think the other thing this brings up is kind of the idea of a new deal versus a new deck. A new deal is could range from rearranging the chairs on the deck of the Titanic to something different. But I think this is a new deck, that this is going to kill a lot of business models. It's a lot of companies are going to have to reinvent themselves, and they won't for a number of reasons. The other issue is what you hear a lot about, first mover advantages and also disadvantages. So, the early bird gets the worm, but the second mouse gets the cheese. So, in which way, what gives you the most benefit? This also gets into the idea of cannibalization. We saw this with telecommunications where, voice over IP was very clear of the benefits that it offered over circuit switch networks. And yet, where was AT&T and other vendors? Well, it was difficult because in the short term, you have issues of office politics, people with different fiefdoms, and also people that want to get bonuses during that time. And they figure they won't change it during their tenure. So for the companies that move quickly or move in there, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit and also areas where the market can be entered. And that's it. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, James. Okay.